Let's start the session. Is the PPT visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So today's live session, the topic is changing practice in education of children with special needs. If we see globally, there are millions of children living with disability in the world. These children have traditionally been marginalized within or excluded from the school because of their apparent difficulties. We are aware about the difficulties of a child who had some special needs. So, for their appearance or for their special needs, they are either marginalized or excluded from the regular school. So, UN Convention on the Right of the Child imposed a requirement for radical changes to transitional approaches to provision made for children with disabilities. After 1 year, the conference held, a second conference held, and there is a concept arise that the education for all. That's focused attention on a much broader range of children. Yeah, Rajeshri, can you, hello? Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, ma'am, to disturb you. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So after 1 year of the convention, there is a concept arise that education for all. Focused attention on a much broader range of children with disabilities who may be excluded from or marginalized within education system. This conference declared the inclusive education is regarded as the only means to achieve the goal. That is, the goal is the education for everyone, education for all the students. This trend was reaffirmed by the next international document, the Convention on the Right of the Person with the Disabilities. This is held in 2006. Disabled persons should be able to access general literacy education, vocational training, adult education, and lifelong learning outcome without discrimination and known on an equal basis with others through reasonable accommodation for their disabilities. The adaptation of Sustainable Development Goals focused attention on the education of children and young people with disabilities. They again push forward, fulfilling the promise of education for all and leaving no one behind, has resulted in a sharp increase in children traditionally kept out of the formal education system, that was the regular education system. Now, assessing school in many countries, there has been a drastic increase in the number of children with disabilities enrolling in the mainstream school. Recent data shows that the rise goes from 0.2% to 61%, and that is defined by the UNESCO 2019 data showing that with the changes the convention adopted, there is a huge changes in the dropout system. From 2%, the dropout rate decreased 61%. The Right of Person with Disability Act, Ministry of Law and Justice, underscored the government committee to inclusive education setting students with and without disability learn together, and the system of teaching and learning is suitable adapted to meet the learning needs of different type of students with disabilities. The teacher, they also called a facilitator, provides an educational atmosphere where students have the opportunity to fulfill their potential for educational, emotional, physical, and psychological growth. Evaluate the needs and abilities of the students and determine method and techniques to best present and provide instruction to students within assigned subject areas. ensure students show continuous improvement in learning basic and essential skills, embrace technology, and look for a purposeful way to engage students. Welcome the challenge of creating an engaging and rigorous curriculum that makes connection to important concepts and ideas within the across discipline. So, what are the various changes happened after the convention? These terms are marginalized, segregation, integration, and inclusion. Exclusion occurs when students are directly or indirectly prevented from the denied access to the education in any form. Then segregation occurs when education of students with disabilities is provided in separate environment designed or used to respond to a particular or various impairments in isolation from students without disabilities. Then the term integration. Integration is a process of placing persons with disabilities in existing mainstream educational institution as long as the former can adjust and the standard requirements of each student and in such institutions. Then the main concept will come, that is the inclusion, and this is the most acceptable trend in today's education system. Inclusion involved a process of systematic reform, embodying changes and modification in content, teaching method, approaches, structure, and strategies in education to overcome the barriers with a vision serving to provide all students the relevant age range within a equitable and participable learning experience and environment that best corresponding to their requirements and preference. Placing students with disabilities within mainstream classes without accompanying structural changes to, for example, organizational, curriculum, teaching, and learning strategies that does not constitute inclusion. Furthermore, integration does not automatically generate the transition of the segregation to inclusion. Then we will discuss individually the terms from starting from marginalization, the first concept, to the last concept, that is most acceptable, inclusion. Marginalization. This is a concept in abstract or multifaceted idea and has been employed in various academic fields, including education. According to UNESCO report, marginalization in education is a form of acute and persistent disadvantage rooted in underlying social inequities. The definition suggests that educational marginalization depends on marginalized group, social and cultural concept. The United Nations Development Programme defined marginalization as the state of being considered unimportant, undesirable, unworthy, insignificant, and different, resulting in inequity, unfairness, deprivation, and enforced lack of access to mainstream power. Educational marginalization is both an outcome and a process through which individuals or groups are systematically denied their right to acquire academic or social capabilities through education that result in their exclusion from social institutions, civic process, and economics. Marginalized groups are often left behind by the national education policies, denying many people their right to education. Then we will discuss about the next term, that is segregation. UNESCO definition of segregation. Segregation occurs when students with disabilities are educated in separate environment. That can be a school or can be a class. Designed for students with impairment or with a particular impairment. Segregation indicates that disabled children will only be treated separately. Some scholars believe that segregation is the best way to educate the special child. Segregation programs are designed and staffed by professionals that are trained to work with children with special needs, which typically means that they are better trained to teach children. Therapists are usually an integrated part of the system of segregation. However, there are downsides of segregation too. Children that are segregated do not always have the challenges of learn with their peers, which can sometimes facilitate their better learning and skills. Also, children that are segregated are not learning how to function in the community in hopes of becoming integrated into the society. There are many educational environments that do not offer purely segregation special education classes. Segregation occurs when students with disabilities are educated in separate environment that can be class or a school itself designed for students with impairments or without a particular impairments. Then the trends shifted from first the trend shifted from marginalization to segregation, then again the term shifted to integration. Let's discuss what is integration. An integrated classroom is setting where students with disability learn alongside with their peers without disabilities. So your student with disability and regular child, those who don't have any disability condition, they learn in together in a classroom or in a school. Integration referred to exceptional students being particularly taught in a mainstream classroom. Activities are adopted so that students can fit in with their mainstream peers while learning skills that may be better practiced in a room with or more age appropriate. Integration is beginning of inclusion education. No specific year could be cited for the introduction of the inclusive, vice versa, integrated education also. Special schools are adopting partial integration or disabled children at the secondary level in the beginning of 20th century itself. However, sorry. However, full-fledged integration educational programs emerged only in the beginning of 1980s. Since 1980s, the field has been nicely phenomenal growth to integrated education. Integrated education emerged out of the compulsion rather than as option of education system. In the process of bringing more disabled children under the umbrella of educational services. Integration can be considered as a cost-effective approach and therefore the general education system started accepting children with special needs in general schools. The implementation of integrated education program also addressed and therefore retention of such children became high with the success of integration in the past 2 decades. The country is now becoming ready for the inclusive education. Inclusive aims to reinforce better educational practice in general school system which address the educational needs for all children. The concept of integrated education has become to stay in the educational system and its full potential yet to be explored. So, marginalization to segregation, segregation to integration, and integration is the basic setup for the new and modern and most acceptable term that is inclusion. So, let's discuss about the inclusion. Inclusive education means all children in the same classroom, in the same school. It means real learning opportunities for group who
Ma'am,
have
what do you mean by PWD?
sorry.
Ma'am, what do you mean by PWD?
PWD is an act. We will discuss this later. First, just gone through the introduction part. This is an act for person with disabilities. Inclusive education is a process of addressing and responding to the diverse need of all learners by increasing inclusive participation and that increase the participation in learning and reducing exclusion within the from the exclusion. And that is cited by the UNESCO. UNESCO defined what is exactly inclusion. And I'm going through with the UNESCO citation once again. That is, inclusive education is a process of addressing and responding to the diverse need of all learners by increasing participation in learning and reducing exclusion within and from education. This means that all the children have the right to quality education that caters for their individual needs. Inclusion, in other words, is the educational practice of education children with disabilities in the classroom with children who do not have any disabilities. It means that all the students, regardless of their abilities and deficiencies, will be included in mainstream education. Through inclusive education, all community members, that is, the teachers, students, and other functionaries, build a sense of belonging. The use of special school or classroom to separate kids with disability from the students without impairments is rejected by inclusion. It is a process toward access, participation, and achievement for all the education. So, can anybody tell me in 2 or 3 words what exactly inclusion means? Inclusion is the most recent trend of educational for children with special needs. 1 or 2 words from any of you to define inclusion? Yeah, Harpreet, you can unmute and say.
Ma'am, it can be like the special needs children have a right to study with the regular classes with the intelligent students or the normal classroom.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Anyone? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. Harpreet, you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
now. Yeah. Someone else want to say any words? 1 or 2 words. What exactly inclusion meaning for children with special needs? Okay. Then come back to the next point, that is PWD Act. PWD, full form of PWD is Person with Disability. It is an act. The act first came in 1995. The issue of the service of children with disabilities is treated as human resources development with the introduction of the person with disability, equal opportunities, protection of rights, and full participation. This is the full law. This is an act in the favor of the person with disabilities. As a result, the service for children with disability condition, that is blindness, low vision, leprosy cured, hearing impairment, locomotor disability, mental illness, and intellectual disability are the 7 disabled conditions covered under this Act. As per the Act, the government shall ensure that suitable education should be provided till the age of 22. But in the 1995, when the first Act was generated, it was still 18. In 2016, the age become 22. Before that, it was still age of 18. It also indicates that integrated education and special school will have to be set up to meet the educational needs of the children with acute disability condition, introduction of non-formal education, functional literacy schemes, provision of aids and appliances, education through open schools and university, etc. are also stressed in the Act. It also indicates that the government should create adequate teacher training facility to prepare teachers for special and integrated school. Developmental research on the assistive device is also included in the Act. Many schemes are being evolved at the national and state level to implement this Act. Therefore, the PWD Act 1995 is strongly encouraging inclusive education concept whenever it is possible. So, is it clear? PWD is an act that the Person with Disability Act. It's covered the education right for all the persons. This focus of the support for the education for the teachers, facilitators, and all the service that should be provided for the person with disabilities. Till now, anybody has any questions? That we have covered 4 trends of the education. That is, first starting with marginalization, then segregation, then integration, then the inclusive. And inclusive is the today's trend. That is the modern trend. Anybody has any question till now? Yes, Ratan, you have any question?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know
The full
exactly.
form, PWD, the full form with person with disabilities.
Yes, ma'am, I don't know about the inclusion. Can you tell me one more time?
Inclusion is a recent modern trend of education system where all the students learn together in the classroom and the school, with irrespective of their disability and diverse needs.
Means all the children come together and they can discuss and learn together. That is the
They are not going to discuss. If it's required for the subject, they will definitely do, but that is a group activity. The
group activity.
Yeah, that's different. That is not a concept of the inclusion. Inclusion is about the classroom system where all the student learning together. The teacher is giving lecture and all the student are sitting together and attending the lecture. The teacher will modify their treating strategies or
Okay.
whatever the content of the subject matter. The teacher will modify it according to the needs and diverse need of the students.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Shall we move on? Anybody has any more queries regarding the four trends of education system? Okay.
Ma'am, can you say the first one is marginalization in one sentence?
Marginalization is one sentence. Marginalization is the first trends where the student who have diverse need, they are separated, they are taught separated. They are not into the mainstream where the student learn together.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So now implementation of changing practice in the education of children with special needs. We have learned about the terms. Now we will learn how to implement the modern trend, that is the inclusive. Even when they receive high quality instruction in general educational classroom, approximately 50 to 20% of the students continue to struggle in the academic skills. Special needs still refer to hearing impairments, vision impairments, physical disability, intellectual disability of a moderate to severe range, or autism. Other students with educational special needs, including learning disability, behavioral disorder, mild intellectual disability, and language impairment. Special education teacher carved lesson for inclusive classroom to make sure students with disability are considered. Teacher may work together to build a curriculum accessible to all type of students. A special education teacher can modify the lesson plan of a general education teacher. An important aspect of special needs program is to tailor educational support which suit the children's individual needs. Key factors that affect and contribute to his include an ideal learning environment and a physical space, teaching staffs and qualifications, academic and emotional support, and extracurricular activities. Within the system of education, all the special needs student as well as the general student get equal benefits. Further, it entails clear participation of well. Compared to the special education system, inclusive education focused not only the student with special needs but others as well. Therefore, we consider the inclusive approaches as an education for all. This is the first convention goal that education is for all, irrespective of their diverse need or socio-economical condition. Within this system, the student do not have to fit into the mainstream education. Instead, the school changes to accommodate the needs of all. Therefore, it welcomes the diverse learning style and speed of the students. In addition, The employs different technique to cater the needs of every student. Furthermore, in comparison of the special and integration system of education, inclusion is far more progressive as it rejects barriers that hinder the student and encourage all inclusive participation. The children with additional learning needs and special education requirements are educated within a mainstream learning environment rather than a specialized school. Inclusive education is very important because all children can be the part of the community and develop a sense of belonging and become better prepared for the life in the community as children as adults. It provides better opportunity for learning. And further few more points for the teachers how to implement the changing practice and education with children with special needs. They can provide more opportunity to student to practice and receive corrective feedback. So they will more focused on the student will participate more, they will practice the same tasks again and again, and they will receive a corrective feedback that how to be perfect or achieving the perfect to the corrective feedback from the teacher. Match instruction to the student needs. So as we know that in the special inclusive classroom setup, all the students have different needs, diverse needs. So the teacher must consider all the needs of the student and they match the instruction and give the instruction in such a way that should be acceptable to all the students. They closely monitor the progress of the student and give the feedback. And the reducing distraction, teacher can reduce off-task behavior and increase the amount of the time that the student are actively engaged in the instruction. So can anybody tell me what are the distraction can be seen in the classroom? Any examples? I hope some teachers are also there.
Ma'am, peer attraction,
Children
peer
are
attention distraction.
Just a minute,
Like
one by one.
peer distraction.
Peer distraction. Very good. Then Ratan.
and children are talking also
Talking with each other,
with each other.
kids.
Yeah, that is the peer distraction. Anything else? You can think about anything else? Any other distraction?
Ma'am, some activity when we are
Ma'am,
just doing,
attention deficiency is one.
Yes, ma'am.
This is not a classroom. Attention deficit, it's a disorder or condition. It's a behavioral condition for the individual student. It cannot be the distraction for the...
ma'am, mood swings. Mood swings.
Okay, mood swings of the individual student. Okay.
Ma'am, when
Any other
children are not
physical distraction,
prepared,
can you
like
think about
they are not
anything?
ready, when children are not confident about, answering or the homework is not done.
Yeah, can anybody think about anything physical distraction in the classroom?
Writing problem.
Physical, in the first thing, the school is the beside the road or the classroom is the beside road. There is a sound of the vehicles. So this is the biggest distraction from the classroom. If the student have any behavioral issues or any attention deficit problem, the condition can be exaggerated by this kind of distraction. Or any other distraction, physical distraction can be considered in the low light. Any
Ma'am,
student
craving of food. Some these children just like now want to eat like more, and they want keep us now. It is the time of eating. Whenever they
that's right, but you cannot consider this as a distraction and you cannot
Okay.
address the problem in the classroom. Okay, that's an individual needs. So you cannot tell any student ki, okay, if you are hungry you can start eating in the class. That should not be done.
So
So,
as you said, the class is near the road,
yeah.
and also the bell which they used to ring, in between
Yeah,
every
that is also, yeah.
word.
And
And
nowadays, a modern trend in some schools, they play some songs or some music.
yeah,
That can be a distraction from few students who have some sensory needs also.
yeah, and also classes near the ground Like if there is some PT physical education is
And
happening.
that's the physical distraction. Yeah, sound and noise come. Another is the low light.
Lights,
The
yeah.
light arrangement is not proper, may be difficult from student who have low vision or vision problem. Even if had student have the attention deficit problem also, low light can be exaggerated the problem. Or in the student have maybe autism, autistic students as present, low light can help them to calm down, where more light can exaggerate their problem, their behavioral issues can be exaggerated. So teacher need to find out a suitable environment when based on the needs of the student. I mean, in the classroom there may be one autistic child or one with all the problem all together. It's very rare because there are a ratio that 20 is to I mean there 10 is to 1 should be the ratio if there are any special needs children. It's a general form. So all the possible condition or all the different needs should not be, I mean, it's not considered. Maybe two or one or two, maybe maximum three student can be there. So the teacher have to find out what is the best suitable condition for the student, and according to that the teacher have to make strategies and give instruction, continuous monitor and following. That is the responsibility of the teacher for implementing the changing practice, that is the inclusion practice in the classroom. So the next is the role of special school and inclusion. Model of education for children with disabilities. Model means there is a regular schooling system where children go to school and come back on a fixed time. And there is another option is homeschooling. Okay, this is the NIOS. We all aware about the NIOS concept, and OBE. OBE is Open Basic Education. And NIOS, can anybody tell me the full form of NIOS? This is national. I'm giving you a hint that it national.
National Institute of Open Schooling.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. This is the model of education. This is the various model have developed to give the right of the education for everyone. Address each child unique combination of needs. In the classroom, we had seen there was a different kind of needs of every children. Maybe they have some sensory needs. Even in the regular student, sometimes they are inattentive in the class. Maybe say they are not feeling well. They had some thing into their mind. They have some fixation into the mind. Maybe they are not a special child, but still on that particular day they are not following the class, not following the teacher's lecture. So all children are different because each bring different experience into the setting, but this is individually, and diversity is in itself a great opportunity for children to learn to value each other and to appreciate their own special diverse needs. Each child progress in the individual to them to they do not make progress in all areas at the same time. The crucial factor is careful, systematic observation, ensuring through knowledge of the each child is uniqueness. So again, it's the responsibility of the teachers to address all the unique needs and of the student and cater the lesson plan or the modification, accommodation, whatever needed to make the sense of the subject matter for all the student. Then shifting from special school to inclusive setup. There are several ways in which education everywhere can make their classroom or lecture theatre whatever environment more inclusive for all their students. And while we give some examples and strategies for achieving this, we also need to examine some of the features of inclusive teaching and the numerous benefits that educators who adopt this approach will undoubtedly see. That means the diversify learning material. This is the responsibility of the educators, maybe a special educator or the subject teachers. Diversify learning materials, taking into account students' needs. Make it easy for all the student to participate, develop a rapport with each student. That is creating a safe environment for the learning. Again, that is considered the physical environment and the emotional environment too. Physical environment, maybe the sound, light, sitting arrangement, the teacher's lectures. And emotional environment, maybe the child is hungry, he's not feeling well, he had some others issues, maybe he need to go to toilet. The teachers have to address all these needs. Diversify learning material. A concept for the teachers is that the teacher has to consider all the possibilities and present the study material in all the possible ways. Some students are maybe learn better through lectures, some with the study material, some with touch and sense. So the teacher has to consider all the possible ways to teach them. Taking student needs in according. We have already discussed the chapter. If any topic, if anybody had anybody required any type of explanation, they can ask me. I'm not going into detail that student needs, how the teacher will address individual to student need. Make it easy for the all student to take part. To some, raising a hand and enthusiastically answer a question, it is easiest thing in the world to do. For others, it is a daunting experience. Despite of having all the knowledge required to probably and correctly showcase that they know, some student lack of the courage to do so. That is, we all have a public speaking phobia that students do have. They know the answer, but they are not raising their hands because maybe if I say it wrong, the other student would laugh at me. They do have this kind of phobia. So teachers' responsibility to identify this kind of student and personally go to them and ask them the questions. The teacher had a good rapport with the student. If the bonding of the teacher and student not very strong, the student will not come up or open his mind or her mind to the teacher. So there should be a good rapport. Develop a sense of belonging. That is the next point. A sense of belonging is a crucial for our life, for satisfaction, happiness, mental and physical health, and even longevity. It gives us a sense of purpose and meaning. Research has shown that loss of belonging has been associated with stress, illness, and decreased well-being and depression. Without a sense of belonging, it is easy to feel lost and alone, which is a pretty scary place in this classroom, especially for children for the children who have diverse need or they are special. They cannot, if I consider an autistic child, they cannot directly goes into the peer and play together. So it is, if they don't have the sense of belonging, they are belong from the classroom, their learning obviously hinder their learning. A sense of belonging to a student can be developed by supporting and accepting their diverse needs. How it can be achieved? It can be achieved through a group activity, peer-mediated instruction, peer support, field trips, and games. So after that, the UNICEF have decided some framework to promote the inclusive education. Now we will discuss about the framework of UNICEF. To close the educational gap of children with disability, UNICEF support government effort to foster and monitor inclusive education system. They focus on advocacy. UNICEF promote inclusive education in discussion, high-level events, and other form of outreach geared toward policymakers and the general public. Then the awareness raising. UNICEF shines a spotlight on the needs of the children with disability by conducting research and hosting roundtables, workshops, and other events for government partners. They are giving continuous training and sensitization. They are arranging sensitization program to create awareness among everyone in the community. Then the capacity building. UNICEF built the capacity of education system in partner countries by training teachers, administrators, and communities and providing technical assistance for the government. Implementation of support. UNICEF assists with monitoring and evaluation in partner countries to close the implementation gap between policy and the practice. We had made policies, but that is not fully implemented. UNICEF take the responsibility to implement the law into the practice. They are continuously advocating the community, parents, teachers, students who are the key supporting players into the system, and they are giving training to them. They are implementing all the technologies, the assistive support. They are raising fund for the research. They are continuously hosting various research of what can be done, where is the gap between the policymakers and the implementation. They are continuously doing this. Then the inclusive practice for the teaching. So how teacher can be a part of the inclusive education system? We all know that the main pillar of any education system is the teachers, and the teachers are the facilitators. They facilitate the education. Inclusive practice is an approach to learning that knowledge that not everyone learns the same. The teacher must be considered the diverse need of all the children. All children diverse the chance to succeed in education, no matter their background, academic ability, or needs. For a school community to be a safe and welcoming space for everyone, they must value diversity and individual differences. To do this, schools should promote inclusive practice in their teaching method and other activities. Inclusive practice referred to a teaching style that acknowledge and make space for different ways in which children learn and accept that different children will benefited from the different learning techniques depending upon their needs. No two children are same, so it's important to remember this when teachers are planning the lesson plans. There are not unnecessarily any particular rules to inclusive practice. To other taking into the account all the different needs of all the different students. Inclusive is near early years can mean adapting your lesson plans to meet the needs of your students. If the teacher have any child in their classroom with additional needs, then the teacher make reasonable adjustment for them. Maybe the evaluation process, maybe the strategies, maybe the teaching learning material, whatever the needs of the student, the teacher have to accommodate according to that. This means removing anything that may put them into the disadvantage. This can be specifically tailored for different needs. For example, the teacher may plan an activity with lots of break to help the child with ADHD to keep focus. To print resources using a dyslexic friendly font to help a child who have any dyslexic condition to understand the text better. The aim of this approach to teaching is to ensure that every child in the classroom has a chance to flourish. Since every child learns differently, to help every child reach their full potential, we teachers must use a variety of teaching learning methods. Now, benefits of inclusive practice. Now, again, I'm coming to all the participants. Can anybody tell me after all this discussion some of the benefits that come into your mind, that suddenly pop up into your mind? What are the benefit? What can be the benefit? Is it inclusive? What do you think? Is it inclusive education system is benefited for the children who have special needs? Yeah, Raj, tell me what's your view about
Yes,
it?
ma'am.
Yeah, it's benefited. Okay. So why do you think it's benefited? Yeah, it's not an exam or anything. You can come up with any idea, any words you can put it. You just put on your thoughts, you can put it into the words.
I think here child is the main responsibility of a teacher.
Yes, good. In inclusive
Yeah,
setup, child is the main responsibility of the teacher.
of a teacher than parents, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, thank you. That's a
Yeah.
lovely. Yeah, Harpreet, you have raised your
Thank
hand.
you.
You can unmute and you can say, Harpreet, do you think inclusive education is helpful for CWSN?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, it's a very challenging for teachers to handle special need kids, and but from the point of view, if we see from the point of view of child, yes, definitely, because they get another chance to see around and to notice, and we don't know when child will get inspired from
Yeah,
other students or situation.
yeah,
So teacher's role is very vital, though it's challenging, but yes, definitely, their role is very important.
yeah. That's another very good point. Now, directly come to the what are the benefit. Let's discuss about this quickly. Using inclusive practice in the early years of education and beyond can have lots of benefits for the children we teach. Some of the potential benefits include all children should be able to be an active member of their community and fellow, and again they feel a sense of belonging. Those with varying abilities should still be placed in the classes with other children and not succeeded. Beginning inclusion in the early years and continuing it throughout a child education means that the children will be more motivated since they won't be feel inadequate and isolated due to their different learning abilities. Successful inclusion means that the children's strength and weakness will be nurtured. I mean, strength will be nurtured, and they can flourish, and their weakness will be nurtured so that the weakness become their strength. They will be able to work on their individual goal, being surrounded by other early years children with their own age. That is the peer mediated instruction. They can learn with their peers. It's also encouraged parents to get involved in using inclusive practice with their children from an young age. And the education and the activities their children are a part. Not only are inclusive practice good for increasing confidence within the classroom, but they can also be used to foster a sense of belonging and respect within the school community. It fosters a culture of respect and belonging. It's also provide the opportunity to learn about and accept individual differences. It's provide all children with opportunities to develop friendship with one another. Friendship provides role models and opportunity of a growth, as well as a teaching children and about acceptance. Inclusive practice also encourage positive relationship between the children and the teacher. So this is a summary of the benefits of for student. What is the benefit of inclusive education for the students? So it was the last slide of my presentation. So if anybody had any query, they can raise their hand and come one by one. Yeah, please tell.
Ma'am, I would like to know out
Sorry
of
for
your
the interruption. Can you just switch on your camera?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, is it comfortable? Yeah.
So, ma'am, I would like to know out of your experience, which is the one common method which teacher can use for the special needs students with the normal kids?
So this is nothing specific. It's better depend upon the teacher's creativity and the student present in the class. If there is a student in the autism and low vision, there definitely the requirements and the accommodation will be different. So it was the children. I mean, it was the based on the children needs and the creativity level of the teachers.
So, ma'am, in case there is a child who, in case if he joins our preschool, and the child is not a normal child, we find it later on. So, in that case, how we have to tackle it? Because sometimes parents do not support, and they do not want to consult OT doctors. So, in such cases, how should we deal with such kids?
Uh, Parents are mostly in the denial stage. We have to accept and we have to move and we have to show some differences. I see this is the prior condition with difference. Slowly, we have to show the difference to the parents. Then only we can give them any instruction or we can discuss with them. They will accept slowly. We cannot help, we cannot force the parents to accept the condition. We have to give guaranteed result that See, this is the prior condition, and with support, this is the condition. After that, only parents will accept.
So, ma'am, in that case, like, how long? In case we found the child in a first month that the child is different, so what would be the right way to approach the parents and tell them?
It's depend upon the present parents. We have to sit with the parents, and then we have to discuss like what they feel, and then only it's different from parents to parents, completely different, depend upon the situation. I cannot conclude anything regarding that, because as I don't know the parents, as the student or teachers or the child, everybody had the diverse needs, parents also had the diverse needs, so the approach will be according to this.
Yes, some teachers suggest me that even if we come to know in the very first month of, or even in the first week, that the child is little different, but we should not approach the parents so immediately, and giving
Yeah,
them,
that's true.
you
No,
know, uh,
at least three
sudden
months.
shock.
We have to see 3 months in generally. Then, if it's not a severe or adverse case, then we have to wait for 3 months.
3 months to inform them.
Yeah, in generally, it's depend
Enjoy.
on the condition of the student and level and age of the student.
So, ma'am, in that case, we cannot say even no to such children, right? It is not fair to say
Now,
no to
now recent practice is inclusive education. We cannot say no to anyone.
anyone. So, for an example, in case such a child comes in, so for such students, we need a shadow teacher, right?
Yeah, this is not a not discuss. Let's discuss here. If you have any further query, you can mail me. You have my mail ID. Even I have mentioned my mail ID on the PPT also. You can mail me. I will get back to you with correct explanation. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Ma'am, if I any queries, so I will send you a mail if
Yeah,
you
sure.
not have it.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
You always help me. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Anybody has any more query?
Ma'am, how we get these PPTs? Which slides you shown today?
What you want?
Which are you shown today? All the slides. How we get?
You want all the slides, but what you
Yeah.
will do without with the slides? If you want, I can throw
To
a
recollect the knowledge, na?
yeah, but it's only the points.
Okay. Main points.
Yeah, only the main points. You have to look for the detailed explanation that I have discussed.
By the way, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I think no one has any more query. Should we bind it?